Alright, family. Powerful I am. We carrying on. It's me, 50 the Mystic. Carrying on with the theme of Jacob wrestles with God. We're going through the story. And today, we're getting into Genesis 32, verse 23. He took them and sent them over the stream and sent over all that he had. Now, this verse itself carries deep symbolical meaning. When read as an allegory for personal transformation, Jacob sending his family and possessions across the stream represents the moment in a spiritual journey where a person must separate himself from every attachment, identity, or support system that wants to find them. In symbolic terms, the family represents emotional bonds, familiar patterns, comfort zones, and aspects of identity tied to relationship. The possessions represent achievements, status, security, and the external structures that give a person a sense of stability. Sending them ahead symbolizes releasing the outer world in order to confront the inner world itself. You are ready now to be all on your own. You are ready to face yourself, the one that you have always feared. The stream represents a spiritual boundary. Water carries the symbolic meaning of purification and emotional cleansing. In an allegorical context, crossing the stream represents stepping out of the old self. We are birthing the new you now. We'll get to it when Jacob himself is no longer Jacob now, and he becomes Israel. Sending everything across first shows that Jacob must now face a moment of truth without relying on anything external. It is just you against yourself, just you and God. This is similar to the archetypal hero's journey where the protagonist must pass through a threshold alone before meeting the challenge that changes their identity. Jacob's deliberate separation from his family symbolizes the stripping away of ego layers, everything that usually shapes your sense of self, such as your past, your accomplishments, the people who validate you, and the roles you play must be set aside when you enter the deepest levels of transformation. Jacob is entering the symbolic wilderness of the South where only truth remains. Allegorically, this moment represents surrender before breakthrough. It teaches that when a person seeks genuine change, there comes a moment when external attachments can no longer serve as a shield. The soul must stand alone, unprotected, and fully present. Only in this state can one meet the divine encounter that defines the entire identity. You need to be stripped of everything so that you can rebuild the foundation on a strong platform. Because this verse itself illustrates a powerful moment in the internal architecture of the human mind itself. When Jacob sends his family and all that he has across the stream, it mirrors the process by which the conscious mind deliberately separates itself from external identities and internal attachments in order to access the deeper layers of the psyche. In psychological terms, Jacob is entering a state of solitude that mirrors the shift from surface level consciousness into deep introspection. This is the moment when the mind begins stripping away distractions so it can confront unresolved emotional patterns with full focus. The family can be read as a symbolic component of the mental landscape. Each relationship reflects emotional memory, internalized roles, and the mental constructs built through years of experience. Sending them away is symbolic of setting aside mental noise. In neurological terms, it represents the quieting of the default mode network, the system responsible for the ongoing chatter of self-referencing thought. When this system quiets, the mind is able to enter deeper layers where transformation occurs. You're able, once you quiet this mind, to really get into the deep subconscious layers of your own mind. Sending over possessions mirrors the brain's shift from external validation. Possessions represent survival, achievement, and the reward-centered pathways that occupy the limbic system. By separating from these elements, the internal system begins to move from the state of ego-driven identity towards deeper self-awareness. The stream functions as the boundary between conscious thought and subconscious truth. Crossing it represents entering an inner threshold where the brain's deeper structures include memory centers and intuitive processing systems. They become accessible to you now. This moment represents the preparation stage before psychological breakthrough. The conscious mind must isolate itself from the habitual patterns of thinking so it can confront the core identity structures. You know, like when Jesus says in the New Testament, take no thought. That is what it's talking about. Jacob stands at the edge of profound inner rewiring, ready to encounter the part of himself that will reshape his whole entire identity. Because this verse in itself reflects a natural and universal law found throughout creation itself. I'll go back to the account of creation just to describe it again for you in a more layered, better structured teaching. When Jacob sends his family and possessions across the stream, he is aligning with the law of separation before elevation. In nature, every transformation requires a stage where the old form is released before the new one can emerge. You cannot want to have a new identity but want to be the same old self. This is why people fail when they set New Year's resolutions for themselves every year, because the old self still exists. You do not change your identity to get what you want out of your New Year's resolutions. Seeds must split open, caterpillars must enter the cocoon, snakes must shed their skin, and rivers must overflow their banks to carve new channels. Jacob is stepping into this natural process by releasing attachments and standing alone at the threshold. The act of sending everything ahead mirrors the law that states nothing new can enter until space has been created. Create space for the new identity that you want. You know, we'll cover it at some point when we get into the root of itself, what it means to pray, that you should believe a thing to have already passed. You need to assume the new state of being that you are looking for to shed the old self. Nature does not expand without first contracting. Winter precedes spring, darkness precedes dawn, and silence precedes the emergence of new sound. Jacob's separation reflects his natural rhythm. He's entering a moment of energetic contraction. This is the quiet before breakthrough, the moment nature uses to gather strength. The stream symbolizes flow, purification, and movement between states. Water is the mediator between worlds in natural symbolism, carrying nutrients, shaping landscapes, and restoring balance. Crossing a stream represents submitting to the natural cleansing required for evolution. By sending his family across first, Jacob aligns himself with the law of order. Before entering transformation, everything must be set in its proper place. Cleared of chaotic energy and move forward to make way for the internal shift. Cosmic law teaches that everyone faces a moment where external attachments cannot go with them into the next phase. The universe requires solitude for revelation. And sometimes the universe itself, God, ancestors, whatever you call it, will separate you from the entire world into isolation. Solitude for you to start going deeper into your inner world and having revelations with God. This separation is not punishment but alignment with the law that identity is shaped in the quiet spaces. Jacob is now standing in harmony with the natural and cosmic power of becoming. Because it offers a clear and powerful lesson for personal growth in itself. When Jacob sends his family and all his possessions across the stream, he demonstrates the importance of stepping into solitude when preparing for deep transformation. In life, there are moments where you must separate yourself from noise, expectations, responsibilities, and the identities you carry in relationships. This does not mean abandonment. It means acknowledging that some breakthroughs require you to stand alone without leaning on external structures for strength. Sending the family across symbolizes creating mental and emotional space. Many people want to grow, but remain attached to old patterns, familiar environments, or roles that no longer match who they are becoming. This verse teaches that before you step into a new version of yourself, you must intentionally release anything that could distract you. This includes fears, unhealthy relationships, limiting beliefs, emotional baggage, and patterns of thinking that drain your power. Sending over possessions represents releasing your dependence on external validation. True transformation happens when you stop defining yourself by what you own, what you have achieved, or how people view you. This act symbolizes freeing yourself from material attachment so you can face your inner truth with clarity. The stream represents a boundary between your old life and the new path waiting for you. Just like Jacob, you will reach moments where you must push everything ahead and remain with nothing but your own spirit, your resilience, and your readiness to face what is inside you. These moments often come before major breakthroughs. This verse encourages you to create intentional solitude, embrace temporary discomfort, and allow separation to prepare you for the next stage. Transformation begins when you are willing to stand alone and meet the truth that shapes your identity, yourself. And as a preview for the next episode here, we'll be going into Genesis 32 verse 24, where now Jacob is left alone, and now a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. We are getting into the very exciting and interesting aspects of it now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow.